You're listening to the Rapid Electric Tailgate Party. Welcome to the Linda Hamill Insurance Coaches Corner. Now let's join Monty Walker with Howe Bulldogs head coach Lance Bryan.
All right, Coach, last week didn't go as planned. How much do you think the weather played into the outcome?
You know, it probably played some, but, both teams were playing in it. And Blue Ridge is a good team, and they've got some good guys up front, and they've got some backs that can really go. And I think as the game progressed, I think everybody got to witness that. They're a tough team to stop. They scored a lot of points this year. And so I don't want to give the weather the credit for what they did. I think, they played a good game, and they had a good game plan. And they did some stuff that really kind of stymied what we wanted to do offensively, and they had a good plan offensively. And both teams played in the weather, and, that's no excuse.
Your quarterback has been struggling through some shoulder issues the past couple of weeks. His performance was about as gritty as you can get last Friday night.
He's a great player, and he's a leader, and he was a unanimous team captain when we did votes earlier this year, and that was player voted on. And so the guys know exactly what he's all about, and he played about as tough a game as you could possibly ask for out of a senior leader. And there were some times where he thought about maybe he should come out, and there was a few times where he refused to let us do it. And it's hard to tell a kid no when he really wants to go back in. And he was really trying to fight, all the way through to the finish and help his team win. And, he gave us everything he had.
It was a very emotional post-game. There's a lot of tears on the field last home game for the seniors. How have your kids responded this week?
I think we've had a really good week of practice. That was obviously a very emotional game. Senior night's always an emotional night for those guys when they play that last game. And, we knew we had a lot riding on the game. And so there was, a little bit added to that. And so, but we talked a lot about after the game and throughout the season, we have to move on. And, we can't worry about last week now. We've got to go take care of business this week because it's another huge moment for us. And we talked a lot about how, we have a chance to finish the regular season with a winning record, and that hasn't happened here in, 5 years. And so, the seniors and I, and we talked a lot early in the season about, what some of our goals and stuff were. And we didn't talk about goals like how many games we'd win or anything like that. I've said that a few times. But one thing we did talk about was how they need to help build a foundation for something that we can build on, going into the future. And obviously, if we can win this Friday, we finish with a winning record. That's obviously a good place to start.
You had a roster change this week. Talk about that.
We pulled up Michael Weimer, and Mikey's one of those guys that has been, a problem for us on the offensive line for a while now. But him going to defensive line, that's primarily the reason why we're pulling him up is for some more depth on the defensive line. We felt like we've had some guys go down. Bryce Crosby going down on the D line made us a little bit thinner in those spots, and so we thought we needed to beef up the line a little bit. But also, it's all credit to him. Like he's been giving us a lot of problems, like I said, and he's worked really, really hard all year to put himself in a position. And we always challenge the guys that are on JV, whenever they're on scout team, that they're not just a blocking dummy or a shield. Like we need them to go hard and do their techniques as best they can, even though they might be lined up a little bit differently. And he's one of those guys that's been flashing on for us for a few weeks now, and so we've had our eye on him, and we just think that it's time for him to come up and fill a role.
We'll take a quick timeout.
Hi, this is Matt Linder with Linda Hamill Insurance. Your home field is where everything happens. And I'm not talking about Bulldog Stadium. We're talking about your home, your car, and your life. For over 30 years, we've been offering bundled discounts on home, auto, and life. We offer Germania and Progressive insurance protection, as well as many others to suit your needs. Call us today at 903-965-4098 or come by and see us at 106 North Broadway in Bells, Texas. That's 903-965-4098.
All right, Coach, the game has been moved to tonight instead of Friday night. How did that come about?
Well, early on in the forecast, it was just rain, chances, and, rain's not a reason to necessarily move a game. There's a lot of moving parts that go into that with officials and bands and sub-varsity games. And it's not something that coaches take lightly, moving games. But when we looked on Monday, we started looking at radars, and there was some thunderstorm chances. And then Tuesday morning, yesterday, the chances skyrocketed. And so me and Coach Turner got on the phone with each other, and we jointly made a decision. We mutually agreed that it's in both of our best interests. We're traveling a long way, and we don't want to get stuck in some long lightning delay or have to cancel and come back Saturday or something like that. Like that would be much more problematic than just moving the game up a day. And so it's also for the safety of travel. I mean, we don't want people traveling in a thunderstorm and metal bleachers. There's obviously that's not good for anybody. And so that's kind of where that all kind of started. We were just looking at it we want to play the game, and it's their senior night. It's our last regular season game, and and we wanted to get the thing in, and we didn't want to cancel our sub-varsity, so we moved them all up to Wednesday, so those kids still get a chance to play too, because we didn't want to have to make that decision on Thursday, because then you lose the sub-varsity games. We didn't want to do that to those kids, and so that's kind of the long and short of it.
So your all-time leading quarterback is out. Sophomore quarterback Garen Langford will step in. I'm sure you have all the confidence in the world in there.
We do. He's been the backup quarterback all year, except for those couple games where he had a cast on his wrist. But even then, we still would get him reps and have him do some handoffs and things like that. And he was a JV quarterback last year, and usually at every grade there's a quarterback in the grade and kind of the guy that plays that position in that grade, and he's the guy for that class. And, he's started all year at corner. And so it's one of those situations where even though he's stepping into a bigger role offensively, he's used to the lights. He's used to, being on varsity baseball, varsity football. He started all these games. He's ready for this moment. And, the coaching staff, we knew early on in scrimmages early on in the year, whenever we saw him play, and we're like, he's going to be all right. He's going to be just fine. And, he's definitely going to be able to step in that role, and we'll do some things differently, because you try to play to the attributes of the player in those positions, and his attributes are a little different than Haley's, and he's actually better at some things. Haley's better at a lot. He's obviously the all-time leading passer. He's good at a lot of things, but we do think there are some things that Garen does better than him, and we're going to try to use those to our advantage.
So if you win this game and Bells goes on to beat Leonard, you're in the playoffs. I would imagine everyone would take that at the beginning of this year.
Definitely. We didn't talk about goals a lot, but obviously, if you line it up enough times, you get into the playoffs. And so, everybody's goal is to make it to the playoffs. I think that's kind of one of those goals that everybody would say at the beginning of the year is the goal. And so that's definitely one of ours. In the back of our mind, we knew that if we won in district, then we'd put ourselves in a position to make the playoffs. And, we're there, and it's pretty good when you're going into week 10. It's the last game of the year, and you got something to play for still. And, these kids haven't had that in a while. And so we think that's a really cool thing, because most, half of the teams in Texas or whatever, there's a lot of teams that aren't playing for anything tonight, and we are. And so we need to, go out and, soak that in.
And what's it going to take to beat Lone Oak tonight?
They're really good offensively. They have a quarterback that can do a little bit of everything. He's thrown for a bunch of yards. They got a couple of receivers that can really go. Their offensive line plays really, really hard, and they're kind of a gritty group. They're not necessarily the biggest group, but they play really, really hard. And so, they're tough to stop offensively. They've gotten stymied a little bit. They've had some red zone issues, but they've moved the ball a lot. So we've got to make sure we limit big plays and keep them contained. And then defensively, they line up, kind of similarly to us. Sometimes they've kind of bounced around between a couple different, schemes that they're trying to find an answer on defense. And, we think they've kind of settled into a couple things these last few weeks. And so we have a pretty good idea of what we think they're going to do. But it's going to take we might see what they line up in at first, and we might have to make some adjustments if they flip-flop between the two. But same thing, their defensive line plays really, really hard. Those receivers that line up out there, they're playing safety, and so they've got some talent all over the place. And, their record hasn't been real great, but I kind of feel like they're a team that is going in the right direction, and they're kind of getting those guys put into the positions that they need to be in. And, they're going to put it all together at some point, and we just don't want it to be enough.
Today's Coach's Corner has been brought to you by Linda Hamill Insurance. You're listening to the Rapid Electric Tailgate Party.